Welcome to the Worth Listening podcast, where we focus on having positive and productive conversations around money. I'm your host, Lauren, a 4-time Olympian and certified financial planner. On this show, my guests share their money stories. Everyone has a unique story and experiences both wins and losses when it comes to money. My intent is to give listeners something they can relate to, something that builds their courage to be open and take control of their own money story. When I'm not creating a great show for my listeners, I'm running my company, Worth Winning, where I help individuals and families organize their finances. Check us out at worth-winning.com. All right, now on with the show. I'm so thrilled to introduce to you all today AJ Vassar. I'd like to call him a friend. He's kind of like that brother that you can't get rid of. You love to hate him. But for real, let me tell you guys a little bit about AJ. He's an entrepreneur, international speaker, freedom expert, and he has built his whole life around financial independence and resilience. Just like me, he grew up with a bunch of kids around the household. So a family of 8 children. When there are usually a lot of children in the household, there's not always a lot of money to go around. So AJ knows firsthand about what it's like to face financial challenges from a very early age. Then he hustled his way through college, learned the art of selling and leadership, and eventually set what he calls a freedom date that completely transformed his life. I came to know AJ because he lives in Medellin, Colombia, just like me. Tons of Americans are fleeing the country and finding solace elsewhere. And it's been such a pleasure getting to know him. But he's been here already for 6 years, creating a life of international freedom. And today he's going to share how he did it. His story is so interesting because he covers just so many different aspects of life, from homelessness to strategic financial moves. I mean, when I tell you AJ's journey is filled with lessons of stepping outside the box, stepping outside your comfort zone, taking control of your money, and building the life you want on your own terms. Like, you just have to listen to be able to hear the story. Just to give you guys a little quick peek into what I've learned about AJ, he walked 31 kilometers. His plan was to walk 31 miles in honor of a war hero that he is familiar with, and ended up twisting his ankle on the 5th mile. And so then changed it into a 31-kilometer walk instead of a 31-mile walk to make it a little bit shorter. But I don't know who's walking anywhere after they get hurt besides AJ. And if that's not enough, there's this 40 days where he drank only water. Like, who does that? He's still alive. He was pleasant the whole time. He came to a dinner party at my house. Like, when I tell you, he is a rare being and you are going to enjoy his story, just tune in. So let's dive in and listen to AJ share his money memoir. AJ, thank you so much for coming on the show today. If y'all didn't hear from the intro, AJ is one of my new besties, and he's going to tell us his whole life story today. But let's just start at the beginning and just give us a little bit of a background on how it all got started. Like, where are you from?
All right, so AJ Vassar, oldest of 8 kids, single parent household. I used to say I was poor growing up, but being in different places, I no longer say that because I've seen poverty. I just say we struggled more than most in the U.S. Yeah, it was tough. It was tough, but when you're growing up, you don't even know it's tough. You just living. You know what I'm saying? You try to make the most fun out of it. I always had people to play with, comfortable, big family. So no, it was cool.
I think people take for granted how resilient children are. Like you said, you don't know what poor is because you don't have a frame of reference as a child. And then once you get a little bit older, you look back, you're like, oh, wait, I wasn't in the middle class.
Yeah. You're like, oh, so it ain't common for people not to have heat.
Right.
And my mom used to make it fun. Like I remember a couple of nights we all slept in the kitchen and held the stove open. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't know. I thought we was just having fun. Like I didn't know we have heat in the rest of the house.
Right.
You don't even think about it as a kid. You think everybody going through this, and for real, in your neighborhood, most people are. So I remember sharing. We wasn't sharing, but our next door neighbor would run an extension cord from his house to our house, and
but electricity, right?
You know what I'm saying? It was just like that's what you do growing up, and you neighborly, and you know what I'm saying. You grow up with them, and you look at them as your uncles and aunts and the people on the block. You know, everybody family, so you don't even know you're struggling. And it's a good and bad part about that. The good part is you really don't know how bad you're struggling. The bad part is it does affect you as you get older because you take a lot of those same lessons from that, and you take it into adulthood, realizing, oh, this ain't how things need to be done, especially when you think about finances. And I truly believe the saying more is caught than taught. So I've seen my mother laugh when bills came up and we didn't have money. So that's what I did. I was all right, hey, shit, I figured out. I didn't realize like there's the things of budget.
What did your parents do for a living?
So my mother was a district manager at H&R Block. So you thought we had money because she did taxes. But yeah, they wasn't paying a lot back then. And you got a gang of kids, you know, so
A
nah.
gang being 8, right?
Yeah, well at the time it was 7. So
Yeah,
my
where do you
sister,
fall in the mix?
I'm the oldest.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the oldest. So my younger sister is 21 years younger than me. So my mother had her while I was in college. So I didn't grow up with her. So it was 7 of us while I was there. But yeah, it was
And where is there? Where are you from?
I'm from a little town called Alton, Illinois. It's on the east side of St. Louis.
In the middle of nowhere, huh?
Pretty much.
So what did you learn about money as a kid? You know, was there like a conversation? Like you said, she laughed when she saw the bills, or you laughed when you saw the bills, but were there conversations being had in the household about money? Was there a piggy bank? You know, any childhood things that you remember about like the money messages that were bestowed upon you?
So because we grew up very religious, I remember the money messages that really affected me were it's harder for a rich man to get into heaven than it is for a camel to go through the eye of a needle. And I was like, oh shit, rich people all going to hell. Like, because the camel, you know what I'm saying? Like, I remember that. My mother was Me and my mother have several conversations about money because it's affected me into my adulthood. But I remember having a paper route and my mother, like, we would get paid and 20% had to go to the house. And I was like, why I gotta pay 20% to the house? I'm like, yo, you got a job. Like, and she's like, no, 20% go to the house. And then we had to give 10% to the church. And I'm like, yo, first of all, this is stupid. Like, this is dumb. And then she wouldn't even give us the rest of the money. She would give us like 10% of that to have and make us put up the other one. And on one side, it's like, oh, she's teaching you to save, but no, because I just felt like she ain't trusting me with money. Like I wasn't trustworthy with money and I wasn't good enough for money. And you know what I'm saying? So
Mhm.
it affected me a lot mentally because I was just like, this ain't something that I'm to be trusted with, right? Kids shouldn't have money. Instead of realizing that no, you can make as much money as you want, and the more you make, the more you can keep. It was like, nah, you can't have it. And then my mother got married when I was like 11 or 12 years old, and the guy that she married had some problems. And by the time I was 12, 11, 12, 13, 14, I was a hustler. So I'm cutting hair, earning money. And he was a retired military dude or whatever. So he got a check. And he'd be like, hey man, let me hold like $5, $10 until, you know what I'm saying, until the first come in and I'm gonna get you back. So I started learning that money could manipulate things because if I wanted to go somewhere, I realized if I gave you money, you would let me go. But if I said no, you wouldn't let me go.
Money
So
could
then,
literally take you places.
oh, literally. So I was like, yeah, how long? Yeah, I get you. You know what I'm saying? So I was paying for freedom back then. And then what would happen is on the first, when this check came in, I would ask him about my money, and he's the reason why I struggled in sales for a long time. Because I would, on the first, I'd be like, hey, let me get that 10, 15. By that time, it'd probably be like $30, $40 by then. Hey, man, can I get my $40? He'd be like, dang, you always ask me for money. And I'll be like, whoa, whoa, okay. All right, cool. So I'm not going to ask for money because when I ask for money, like, it hits the fan. So then it was just like, yo, this is just your token out of here. You're never going to get it back. So learn to manipulate. So those were the lessons that I was learning about money, were lessons I had to break as an adult because they stuck with me a long time.
Absolutely. So first job was a paper route. Then you became a hustler, self-proclaimed hustler. So we know you went to college, but tell us a little bit about like that journey and like, was there a conversation about like everybody in this household has to go to college? How are we gonna pay for college? Scholarships? Like where was the money gonna come from for education? Was there an option for you to not go to school or what did that look like?
So this is literally how the conversation about college went in my family. You you graduate in May. You have 3 months to be out of my house. That was the only conversation. Like, I don't care what you do, you got 3 months. That was that like literally that was the extent of the conversation. So all of my siblings, except the last one, which is the baby, all of us were out within 3 months of high school. We already knew from the time I walk across that stage, I got 3 months and I'm gone. So, fortunately for me, I play sports. So I was like, well, it's either sports or the military. That was my trajectory.
So
With
was
my
it
brother,
a student loan situation, like partial
oh, yeah.
scholarship, full scholarship?
So it was student loan. So I had a couple schools offer me scholarships. I didn't understand scholarships back then. I didn't have nobody that had been through that process. So when, the school that I ultimately decided to go to, they were like, oh, we'll give you all of these grants and blah, blah, blah. And all you got to do is take out this small little. And I was like, oh, cool. That's not a problem. Like, cool, I'll do that. I didn't realize, like, yeah, you're going to have to pay this back, and
As most people don't, because at 17, 18 years old, like, what do you know about taking out a loan for real, for real?
yeah, first of all, at 17 years old, you think about 25, you're going to be a millionaire.
Mhm.
So, it's like you're not even worried about what's $40,000. You're like, yo, I'm gonna come out making six figures, not realizing what's six figures. Like, and you ain't gonna come out making that ever,
Right.
right?
That is not a starting salary.
No, no, that's not at all. So for me, it was rough because I had to learn everything about myself. I had to learn the college process, the loan process, the Perkins loan, all of them. I had to learn that about
Right. The
myself.
Pell Grant. Right.
Hell, yeah, yeah. It was just like, all right, I'm gonna figure it out. And I was still cutting hair, so that's how I made money in college. I cut hair. I was a good enough barber to, people would be like, "Yo, tie me up," and I got about $5 at a time.
Is college where like money messages started to change for you? Because generally what happens is you get to college and you start to see other people, you get to see different levels of income, different earning styles. Somebody whose kid is drive or one of your classmates is driving a Ferrari or something along those lines. Did you start to hear or see different money messages when you were in college and or did you start to handle your finances differently when you hit that point?
No, because in college, all of us was on Pell Grants. So our big payday was we got the football scholarship. I transferred schools. So once I went D1, I was like, oh, this is different. Like you get a scholarship, and if you live off campus, they give you a check. And because you poor, they give you another check. So we thought we was balling, you get 5,200, 6,000, $7,000, and you'd be like, yo, I gotta spread this out through the semester or through the year. And what I noticed though, and it didn't change my money messaging, but I started to become aware of different programmers. Because some of the white dudes on the team, their parents will buy them a house their freshman year.
Mm.
And then they have like 5 to 6 football players living in a house. And then once they graduate in 4 to 5 years, the house almost paid off.
Right.
And it didn't make sense to me. I was like, oh, that's cool. But I was like, I don't know why y'all doing it, but that's cool. You know what I'm saying? Not realizing, yo, when they get finished, they have an asset.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because they came through the system. Now they got a rental property and they got equity. Oh, so they getting a head start. Like, okay, I got you. I got you. But a lot of times when you learn those lessons, you don't have the resources to be able to duplicate what they've done.
Right. You got to put it in your back pocket and say, like, okay, this is information, but
But it
also,
ain't nothing it ain't nothing I can do with it.
what
But
was
I
your
did.
major?
So I majored in business. I majored in business administration and with an emphasis in marketing.
What did you think you were going to do when you got out of school?
I had no idea. I tell everybody I went to school to play football.
Fair enough.
I had no idea what I wanted to do. Sometimes I still feel like I don't know what I want to do. Yeah.
So what happened when you got out of school then? Like you got out of school and you started looking for jobs. How, where, when, why?
I did. So cool story. I was cutting so much hair on campus that I got approached by this guy. The owner of the barber school would like to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I went to the barber college in the area, and a dude named Eric that owned it, he was like, oh, so you AJ? And I was like, yeah. He was like, yo, cut my hair. And I was like, all right. So I chopped him up. He was like, oh, you nice. And I was like, okay. He said, look, you're taking too much of my business from the campus because that's where I get most of my clients. He said, I'll send you through my school for free if you stop cutting hair on campus.
Wow.
So my last semester in college, I was going to barber school and college. And after that, I opened up a barbershop.
So it was more about getting a legit license. That you understood that there was like, oh, there's something to going to this school for free, even though I already know what I'm doing.
Yeah, because I know I can't open up a business and work in it without a license.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I was like, all right, cool. I'll go. Because like I said, I didn't know what I was going to do after school. All of my internships was like janitorial jobs that, that most athletes take during the summer so we could train for football. So I had no idea what I was going to do.
Okay, so what was next on tap then?
Next on tap was one of my clients was a millionaire. I always give him credit. His name is Dennis Vincent. He is my first business mentor outside of my family. And he was worth about $20 million. And I remember cutting his hair, and I remember shaking his hand the first time. And I was like, oh, shoot. And I was like, yo, his skin just like mine. Like, you know what I'm saying? I was like, oh, it ain't nothing different. Because I ain't never met no millionaires. I'm like, oh, you just like me.
Right.
And
think they just like float around and they're magical, right?
Yeah, I was like, that's what I thought. I'm like, yo, mental, like millionaires gotta be like. And he was like, nah, he was just like me, yo. And he started working with me and talking to me. And he said something that I'll never forget, which is why I'm quiet in a lot of rooms. Because we'd be in the barbershop always talking about business and stuff. And he made more than everybody in the city, especially in my barbershop. But he was always quiet. And I was like, yo, why don't you ever give us advice when you hear us talking about nonsense? And he said, AJ, I know what I know. I don't know what y'all know.
Mm.
I was like, wow, like you know more than all of us, but you sitting there listening for something that can help you out. And it just kind of changed my whole mentality. And he's the one that told me, look, if you want to be like me and be an entrepreneur is nothing but a fancy word for salesman. He said, that's all it is. And to be an entrepreneur, you have to learn how to sell and you have to learn how to lead people. So then from there, I sold my barbershop and I took a commission-only job at Aflac in Atlanta. I moved to Atlanta and took a commission-only job at Aflac.
Selling insurance then.
Insurance.
Interesting.
Yeah.
And was the starting salary at Aflac as a salesperson comparable to what you were earning as a barber?
It was $0. There was no starting salary.
Because it was commission only.
Commission only. Yeah, it was $0.
What made you feel like that was a good thing to do? Was just simply these conversations you had with this gentleman and said like, I can take this risk to start from zero versus like have this cushy, stable income that's coming in from being a business owner? So
it was a couple things. A guy that rented a booth from me named Clyde, one of the coolest cats I know, old dude. He's probably like 55, had a heart attack. And I was like, yo, I don't want to be 55, have a heart attack, and cutting hair is my only source of income. Fortunately for Clyde, he was ex-military, so he had money through, military, but I wasn't ex-military. I was like, yo, I got to set myself up for something better. You know what I'm saying? So I was like, I need to figure out something else because this ain't cutting. So that's actually how I made the decision to take the risk. I was like, I can take the risk now. I ain't got no kids. I ain't married. I can get by on peanut butter and jelly sandwiches if I need to. Done it before as a kid. Like I can go back to that.
Fair enough. All right. So now you're in Atlanta. You're working at Aflac, ground zero. How do you figure out how to sell stuff? Because you also had some programming that you mentioned that was like kind of the anti-sales programming, if you will.
Yeah. So Ben Rep taught me a lot because Aflac's headquarters is about 90 miles from, and you don't have territories in Aflac. So Like you walk into any place you want and ask them if they got Aflac. So they've seen all the Aflac employees. So you walk in and like I typically went to like doctors' offices and stuff, and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you like the fifth Aflac person I've seen this week." And I was like, at first it used to scare me, like, "Oh shit!" Like, and then I just had to learn how to roll with it. And I'm like, I always feel like this: selling and dating are very similar. If I just smile and at least get a conversation about it. And I go nowhere else, but I can get a conversation. So when they started saying that, because that's what most of them said, I would be like, well, am I the cutest? And I started learning how to break people's patterns because I wasn't expecting that. Mm-hmm. And then like, what? Like, I mean, you said I'm the fifth one. Am I the cutest out of the five? And they would just start giggling and be like, you crazy. Why are you here? And it started teaching me relationships and how if I build relationships, then I can actually build a good sales that doesn't take having a silver tongue or, having all these sales, but really it's about, can I communicate with you? Can I get you to acknowledge me, like me, talk to me, see me as more than a salesperson, see what you really need. You know what I'm saying? And if you have a need and I have a solution to your need, then shoot, then we can commence the selling process.
So. Okay, so you figured out sales just kind of on your own. Now you are a millionaire salesperson for Aflac, and that's the end of the story?
Heck no. First of all, I never became a millionaire salesperson for Aflac. Let me say that. That is not how that went. So when I'm in Atlanta, I was figuring it out, and I had 3 other jobs. I was like, oh, I'm not good at this thing starting off. Takes you a while. So I was working at the aquarium. I was doing a lot of stuff. But my cousin realized that I was good at sales, so he was like, "Yo, let's start a business." So we started a mobile marketing company 2011, at the end of 2011 in December. And we started doing some cool stuff. We created a mobile app for the 50th anniversary for the March on Washington. I was able to go up there. I was able to go to inaugurations. I was able to meet Dr. Bernice King. Do that, was invited to her birthday. So I started like really being around some very influential people because of what we're doing. And I was taking pictures and shaking hands and kissing babies. And I realized all these pictures in the world don't put money in your pocket. And it doesn't change your money programming. So I had the pictures. I was in the room, but I didn't have any money. And business happens and things happen with family. And in 2014, April 20th, 2014, I became homeless. And I had to sleep in my car for about 3 months.
Whoa. I was not expecting this turn of events. Hold on a second now. Like, I figured out sales. I started my own business. Life is happening and now I'm homeless. Like, something didn't work out quite as planned.
Yeah.
So wait, let's just pause for a second, actually, because homelessness is like, there's different levels to homelessness. So it's like, I can't afford rent and I've been evicted. There is, I'm just not going to spend, like, I still have a job, but I can't come up with first, last, and security. And I know I can't go home to my mama. And you're talking about being homeless. People live in their car sort of deal. Like, what was the level of kind of like homelessness that you came across, and like where were you at in money management wise that like led to this situation? Like, did you understand money? Was money coming in and going right back out, or is this a result of, like you said, some unfortunate circumstances that led to the homelessness?
It was some of all the above. It was some unfortunate circumstances, but it was also some, when you run a business trying to get money, you're trying to make your business. You got to decide who going to be. Is it going to be my business or is it going to be me? Sometimes, you know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I had kind of like a voluntary homelessness because one of my mentors, Sam Shepard, at the time, Sam was making about $140,000 a month at the time. He's the first a month. Like he's the first Black $1 million earner for Primerica.
Wow.
So Sam was paid. So I told Sam, I was like, yo, I'm about to leave Atlanta and go to Texas and live with my mom for a minute. Some situations came up and I'm about to be home, right? So Sam like, nah, you're not for that. And I was like, oh, like I'm thinking Sam gonna give me a loan. I mean, you make $140,000 a month. Like, thought he was gonna shoot me 10 bands, like, put me. And Sam was like, He said, nah. He said, you're not gonna do that. You don't want to start that. Woman wants a man that runs to his mom when times get hard. So you don't want to start that now. He said, I have a safe park to sleep in from your car than you will from running away from your problems. And
Wow.
yeah, Sam was the first man that like really hit me with tough love. Like my uncles have done it to an extent, but Sam like punched me in the face with it and was like, nah, I'm not gonna loan you no money. I have a safe parking lot for you to sleep in, and you'll be good. You'll learn more in your car than you will from running from your problems. And so that's where the resiliency came. So when people, and I'll get to the travel part in a minute, but when we talk about me moving to out of the country and going to a place I've never been to, I wasn't scared. It's because I lived in my car. Like I lived in the parking lot. I slept there. You know what I'm saying? Like I took hours at Gold's Gym. Like I know how to make it. I'm not like Bingless was my boogeyman. You know what I'm saying? So I no longer have a boogeyman. It's like, oh, if it don't work, I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out.
Okay, so people make financial mistakes. People make all sorts of different things. You said there's sometimes like life happens, unlucky things happen. What would you say to somebody? Like, let's just pause here for someone, like based on like what you've experienced. And like, what would you say to somebody who's recently made some sort of money mistake and like is just like not sure what to do?
Well, it's like it's the old antidote goes like, if you find yourself in a hole, stop digging. That's the first thing. Like stop digging. You know, if you're behind, don't invest in another nothing. Like use what you have to get you out of it. You know what I'm saying? And I don't mean the money you have, like use the time you have. And a lot of times if we don't, we have time. And if you have time, you don't have money. Right? That's how it is for most of us. So if you don't have money, you probably have time on your hands. So utilize your time. Drive for Lyft, drive for these delivery services, right? Figure out places where you can data entry, like whatever it takes, figure out ways to make money, right? Figure out ways where you can trade your time for money instead of, you may go through a season like I did, where instead of earning, you go through a season of learning and know that's what season you in. And even if you can't, if you're not earning what you need, if you learning what you need, then that'll take you so much further than even an earning aspect. Because I mean, I've been able to be out of the US now for 6 years because I was able to go through a season of learning, even though I wasn't earning what I wanted to at the time. That's the advice that I would give them.
I love it. I love it. Figure it out, basically, is what AJ is telling you.
You can, and it doesn't happen overnight. Like, you know, it's funny how I can say I was for 3 months. I say that in a sentence, but that was every night. Like I didn't have my own spot, right?
Right.
And I wasn't in my car every night. You know what I'm saying? But like most of the night, I remember being in my car a lot of nights. Like, yo, this is not cool. This
Yeah,
is
and I
not
think
cool.
somebody who's never been homeless might be like, man, it was only 3 months. You're like, oh, it was only 3 months. But like to literally not have somewhere to go one night, 2 nights, even, I think would really set some people straight to realize like how hard it is to make it 3 months without an actual place, like a roof over your head that's your own.
I remember being in my car one night and I had to go to the bathroom. And this is when it really hit me like, yo, you ended. I was in my car and I went to the bathroom and I got out and man, I won't say it was the voice of God. I don't know what it was, but I heard a voice because I go to a tree, right? I go to a tree and I'm like, is this my life? Like it was 3 o'clock in the morning and I'm urinating on it. And clear as day, I'll never forget. A voice was like, yo, sometimes in life, you'll have to pee on the tree like a dog. That don't mean you are one. And I don't know
Wow.
what it to me, but that meant so much to me. And I was like, you know what? I'm still AJ. And I think that's when I started really being cool with being me. Like, yo, I may go through this, but that don't mean that's what I am. I'm still me.
Unbelievable. All right. So, I mean, we're traveling through life. This is the travel series. You somehow traveled to Medellin, Colombia at some point. Like, bring us up to speed on how travel has been a force in all of the things that have happened during the course of your life. And, like, how did you end up in Medellin?
After I went through homelessness, I actually went and got a real job because I with Mark, who's another who, like, when it comes to my mindset with business and stuff, Uncle Mark helps at that. But my Uncle Mark told me, I was telling him like about my struggling, and I was like, man, I'm trying to pull myself up from my bootstraps. And he was like, AJ, that only works if you have boots. He was like, you only got boots. Like, go get a job. And I was like, all right, cool. So when it,
Real
because
simple,
that was my
straight to the
thing.
point,
Yeah, yeah,
We
you're like,
start
yo,
living
if you
this
don't have
cliche
boots,
life and clinging to things, but it's like, come on, let's keep it real for a second.
yeah, no, you don't have boots. Go get a job. Got a job. Things were going good. Life was changing. I will say this: a lot of the stuff we hear as we're learning about money, some of the stuff doesn't apply because if it's a different lifestyle for being an entrepreneur. So some of the budgeting things that you hear, they actually don't work for an employee. And some of the budgeting stuff you hear don't work for an entrepreneur. And that was partially my problem with my money mindset. Well, trying to do stuff employees do, but I'm an entrepreneur. I was an entrepreneur like 99% of the time. So I can't live that way. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I didn't have an entrepreneur budget. No one told me how to
Yes.
budget, right? So I started to realize you have to listen to the sources you're listening to because you can do the right thing in the wrong situation and not get the results you want.
Amen
So
to you. That was a whole word right there because Instagram, so like all the social media, we don't even got to point out a single platform. And these talking heads are giving one size fits all information. And you are an individual, unique. There are 8 billion people on the planet. None of us are the exact same person. So why would you have the exact same advice as the person next to you? It can't be applicable to everybody. And there's a particular talking head that I can't stand because he gives that advice and people follow him in a cult-like manner and it messes up their finances terribly. So I'm sorry, you struck a nerve with me because that one size fits all thing does not work.
does not work. You need to understand their circumstances. You need to understand, right? Because the advice that I was listening to about finances were for people that get a consistent paycheck every week, make the same amount of money every week. They know how they can do that. With me, I make money here. I may not make money for 2, 3 weeks. Then I make, you know what I'm saying? So it's just different. It's a different world. But corporate America did great in corporate America because I still kept my mindset. In 2017, I remember sitting at my desk, and my father died he died when he was 49 years old. I was 30 at the time, and I was sitting in my desk, and I said, "Yo, if you die at the same age as your dad, you got 13, 14 years left." And I was like, "How you want to live?"
That math doesn't math. You said he died at 49. He had 19 years left.
No, he died at 49. I was 36.
Oh, 36, not 30. Okay. Okay.
No, that was 6.
All right. All right.
Yeah.
You go keep going with the story. I just want to make sure, we're on a financial podcast that the math was mathing.
Yeah. No, he died at 49. So I'm 36. And I was like, all right, cool. So once I thought about that, I started using the term mortality motivation because what got me to move was my mortality. Because while all of us think we can retire and do something later on, my dad and several other people close to me that at very young ages showed me that that's not the case. So you got to live that's why you're here because I really ain't promised.
All right. So you had this moment where it was like, hey, I got to start living. Otherwise, I am dying, like literally. And I don't want to be in corporate America anymore. I want to why leave the country? Why you went from corporate America to Medellin? Was that the next step in this kind of story that we're hearing?
So the next step, and I was July the year before I left. It was August. I went to Trinidad and Tobago, and I spoke at a conference there. Every time I speak at a conference, especially from overseas, I always want to go see where the locals are because I like kicking it with the locals. So dude took me to a neighborhood where I saw poverty for the first time. That was the first time I'd ever seen poverty.
What did poverty look like?
I wish people understood what the like neighborhoods in Medellin, how they have the tin roofs. Okay, they had a 10 house. It was a slab of 10, a slab of 10, and a slab of 10.
Three
That was their
sides,
house.
exactly. Not even four.
That was their house. And these kids, and they were in with this chick. I mean, it was a chicken. It was very malnourished. And I was like, yo, that's amazing how much fun they're having. He was like, yeah, that's probably their dinner. And that, like, man, it did something to me. And what I realized at that was, I was like, yo, I gotta leave the US because these people have so little, but they're so happy. And in the US, we have so much and we're so miserable. And I was like, I don't, I gotta go. I gotta go.
That was
I
a
gotta go.
whole word right there.
Yeah,
It,
they miserable.
and it just took one
yeah,
place then. So one trip to outside of the country completely changed your perspective on even wanting to live in America for yourself.
yeah. I don't know. Like I said, when I saw how happy people were, and with not having the Mercedes and the houses and the jewelry and the Birkin bags and the red bottoms and the this and the that, and they so happy, and then you come to the US and everybody with that stuff, and they're miserable, and we're on antidepressants, and you fighting over stupid stuff, and yeah,
Okay. All right. So you return from this trip, you pack up your stuff, and you move to Medellin, Colombia. Or maybe you return from this trip, you still got your regular job, and you start making an exit strategy, and you start doing some research about where to move, how to move. You go visit Medellin 6 times before you decide to move there. Like, okay, what happened next?
So I left Trinidad and Tobago. I was like, I'm leaving. I gave myself what I call the freedom date. And the freedom date is, I mean, I have a formula for putting it together, but if people want to do it, like one of your listeners, I literally just set aside how long it's going to take me to make this much money to survive and make this much money to be able to be okay. I created my freedom date. Took me 11 months. I was like, okay, I could do it in 11 months. I put a plan together and I was like, I'm out. Then I decided where I was going to go. I was looking at Trinidad and Tobago. I was looking at Jamaica. It was a couple of places, but I think the last on my list was Mexico. It was Mexico and Jamaica. One of my homegirls, I was dating at the time, she was like, look at this video. And she sent me a video and it was like about Medellin. And it was like, oh, if I want to go anywhere and live like a king, is a dude, I think his name Jabril or Jabari or something. Like okay. He's like, yo, if I wanted to go live like a king, it's 2 places I would go. Medellin, Colombia, or anywhere in Thailand. I looked at Thailand and I'm like, yo, Thailand is a 24-hour flight. I'm not. But I was like, yo, Medellin is like right down the way. So I was like, oh. So I'm budgeting my money. So I didn't want to plan a trip because I didn't want to my budget money. So I started researching it. And of course, since I got it so far in advance and I didn't want to chicken out, I was like, yo, I bought my ticket like probably 10 months before I left. And I bought a one-way ticket.
What?
Yeah, I bought a one-way ticket.
To a place you had never been before. You
never been before.
Simply saw on Instagram or some sort of social media video.
That was it. And then Medellin wasn't popping, so it wasn't like all the videos we have now about Medellin that you could put and look at on YouTube. Like, yeah, it was had about Medellin was Pablo Escobar, and so. But I was like, Pablo been dead for 30 years. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then, yo, we got a bunch of Pablos in my neighborhood, so I'm cool. Like,
I ain't scared.
Right, like, yo, I grew up around that, so I figured out I'm street smart. So
all right,
yeah.
So you went to Trinidad, had an experience that was life-changing from a perspective standpoint, returned home, created a plan that said you were going to leave in as soon as possible, which ended up being 11 months, and moved to Medellin, Colombia blindly after 11 months. Yeah. So I want to circle back to this whole freedom plan. What did you refer to it as? Freedom number?
Freedom date.
freedom date? Because, most of the story that we've been talking about is you didn't have a lot of financial literacy. You had a lot of negative money messages, but okay, this thing happened to change your perspective, but you didn't get financial literacy overnight. So how did you come up with this freedom date and figure out your finances in a way that was going to allow you to actually be able to implement this plan when you were still kind of, well, from my understanding, you were kind of still at baseline with a financial literacy at this point?
Yeah. With anything, if you put yourself in positions to where you have to figure it out, you will. And with me knowing that I was going to be leaving the country, I was like, oh, I got to figure out, like, I have no choice. So that's really when I became more financially literate. I was getting better, but that really, really put me on the fast track to being more financially literate because I knew I had to figure it out because I was leaving. I'm gone. I'm gone.
I mean, you could have changed your flight. Like, what really made it like set in stone you were leaving?
Oh, you don't understand. So I wasn't going to change nothing because it was going to cost me more money. So as soon as I made the decision, so I always believe in burning my boats, right? So the one reason why I sold my barbershop when I moved to Atlanta was because I knew if I did, then I would always, when times got hard, I would always have the ability to go back and make $1,000 in a weekend. So to not do that, it's like selling because if you burn your boat, you got it here. Once I made the decision, it was like the job is done. I don't have an apartment no more. You know what I'm saying? My car, like I got rid of everything. So I made it to where I didn't have a choice. I had to go.
Okay. All right. So Medellin, Colombia, you've now been here for how long?
I've been here for 6 years.
6 years later, you bought a one-way ticket
Yeah.
and never returned to America to live.
Yeah.
And what did you do when you got here? Because you had this corporate America job, if I'm following the story correctly. You burned the boat, left the country, but you needed to earn money still, I would imagine. Like you had your freedom date, but you weren't like retired when you left the country 6 years ago.
Nope. I knew I was gonna have to figure it out on a
So
business
you work at
end.
like a Colombian ice cream shop now?
Nah, I started coaching. I started coaching people with how I did it because then people started asking me how I was able to make the transit. And then this is something I figured out that I would probably do now if I had to do it all over again. If you're actually good at your job, then what'll happen is you can actually with them to move you to a time. So that's what they did. They ended up calling me and was like, hey, we got a project we would like you to work on. Like, can we 1099 you? And I was like, you sure can. So we can do that.
Make yourself valuable enough that you're sought after, even when you're not seeking after that particular income.
Yeah. That was one of the ways I was making money. And then you find several ways to make money, man. Depending on what your skill set is. Because I learned to sell by then, how to sell. I've always loved helping people. So I started helping. It just working out. And some stuff, honestly, in some ways I made money. Like I never saw it coming. Right. One time I got called to do a voiceover. I was like, all right, cool. I'll do it. I've never met the person. It's just like, yo, I like how your voice sounds. Would you do a voice for me? I'll pay you.
Wow.
Cool. Like, yeah.
So that's I call it get it how you live, like where it's just like a hodgepodge of way that money is coming in and you just figuring it out best you can.
You just figure it out. And as long as you don't have to have an extravagant style, I mean, a lot of stuff will work out for you.
I love it. I love it. I love it. All right. So as we wrap up, kind of what is your approach to organizing your finances now? Are you tracking your spending? Do you have a financial planner? Like, what are you doing kind of as an overall like plan to organize your finances and what are maybe your financial goals in general?
So for me, I look at this is almost like retirement. Most people think it'd be to wait until they were 64 to talk to a financial advisor, right? I feel the same way about taxes. So I'm like, it's stupid to talk to your tax person in January. The year's done. So I'm throughout the year. So they can help you out and you know what I'm saying? like figure out things that I'm kind of in that vein. So bookkeeper, I try to keep up with her, make sure that we on the same page. I ain't doing stupid stuff. Make sure that I'm not spending, money on frivolous things. I have my vices like else. So I think just watch over your stuff with you, keep an eye on it, because it's very easy to get caught up in spending more money, especially when money starts going a little bit. Because you'd be like, oh, I got it. I'll pay this off in a month. Or I think it's about plan. I think it's about having a plan and then having someone that can look over your plan with you, even like a financial coach. That's kind of how I look at my people. They like my financial coaches. And I don't do everything right. I'm still struggling a little in areas when it comes to mentality and money, but like I'm working on.
That is a perfect segue into what we call the final sprint. So what happens in this final sprint is I'm going to rapid fire some questions at you as quick as you can. You are being judged by an Olympian on how fast you're going. So are you ready?
I'm trying to get the fastest time you've ever had.
It's impossible. You're not going to win, but here we go. Like you said, this is a perfect segue because one of the questions is, what is your worst money habit?
Procrastination.
Best money habit?
Not caring about money.
Something you do for fun that doesn't cost anything.
Read.
You got $20 in your pocket right now. What do you spend it on?
Nothing.
Finish this sentence. That awkward financial moment when.
Awkward financial moment when Chase hits you up and says, your account is $50. And you was on the date.
All right. Worst advice you've ever received?
It takes money to make money.
Ooh, best advice you've ever received?
About money or life?
Either or.
Don't go to your mom when you home. Figure it out.
Figure it out. All right.
Figure
You did pretty good. Last but not least, one thing that you would like to improve about your personal finances in the upcoming year?
I would like to live 10% of my money.
Okay.
I would love to live off 10. I would love to 10% and be able to put the other 90 away.
Well, what's the action item that you need to do to actually be able to follow through on that if that's not happening now?
Sell a whole lot more.
Sell more. Because you're not going to lower your expenses. So you're like, make more money because expenses are not going down.
Yeah, I'm not lowering mine. I mean, I'm a minimalist as it is, so I just need to sell. I need to sell more.
I can attest to that, y'all. He is a minimalist. Just saying.
Yeah, I'm a minimalist.
All right, you have made it to the finish line. You probably were the fastest of all time. I'm not gonna lie. Because most people usually like to tell a story about each of the questions because my questions are so interesting, but you just kind of stuck straight to the point. But whatever.
No, you put me on the time. If you say I'm on the time, I'm going. Come on, I'm competitive. Like you can't say it's a race and then I'm not going as fast as I can.
But fair enough. You did an excellent job. Here is your medal. You have been crowned. You get to stand on the podium. Mm-hmm. Crowned by an Olympian, which I don't even know if we crown people. I don't know what it's called, but just a medal ceremony, but neither here nor there. This is your time to shine. Imagine that the national anthem is playing in the background. Everybody, all eyes on you. Shout yourself out. Tell us where we can find you. Tell us how we can support you. What can we do to make your life better?
Okay. Before I do that, I need to tell a story about my Uncle Mark.
Oh, please do.
Okay. Tell you a quick story about my Uncle Mark is who I credit a lot of my business success to because he taught me that if you want to be, you got to pay the cost. My Uncle Mark would, when I needed shoes for stuff in high school, he would always let me come to his house and cut his grass or do whatever y'all work to earn money. So this is what he would do. He would never come get me. I would have to run to his house, which was about 2 or 3 miles away. We would agree on $40. First time it happened, we agreed on $40. After I cut his grass, literally asked me, whose lawnmower did I use? And I was like, yours. Took $5 off using his lawnmower. Then he took $5 off from his gasoline. Money off of me drinking water. When we got finished, I think he paid me $15. My uncle taught me very valuable lessons, but he did not teach them traditionally.
I mean, but he taught him in a way that stuck with you. So.
Exactly, because I cannot tell you what pair of shoes I bought. I can't think I bought with the money, but I can tell you all the lessons that I learned from him. And the one thing he taught me was plan your work and work your plan. And if I could say, like, that's the one thing that has really helped me out on this one. Plan my work and then work my plan. So the advice that I would give to any of your listeners, plan it out, plan your work your plan, from my Uncle Mark.
One time for Uncle Mark, made this very productive citizen of society, and AJ.
Yeah, everything, all my social media is AJ Vassar. That's it.
Simple, straight to the point.
That's it.
All right, if y'all looking for AJ, you know where to find him. I'll add all of those links to the show notes, and we out of here, y'all.
And she did say I was one of her besties, so I just want to put that in there. She admitted it. Thank you.
Oh gosh. In Colombia, it is hard to find community of people that are like-minded, I will say. There's something that we all have in common as expats who have left the country. You don't have as big a pool of people to pull from. So I am grateful that a fellow financial planner friend introduced me to AJ. That is accurate. I'm not going to say it again, though.